Elections have just took place across Indian states like West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, and Assam last month. Millions of people voted, thousands of polling booths were set up, and entire system moved at a massive scale. From security forces to EVM machines, from logistics to manpower, the scale was massive. But here's a surprising part. There isn't a single number that tells you the real cost of running an election in India. So what does it actually cost? If the state elections are this large, just imagine the scale of Lok Sabha elections which are conducted at a country level. In this video, we'll break down the cost and understand the spends using data. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Now before we dive into numbers, let's set this one thing very clear that this video is at a high level data driven breakdown of how much it costs government to conduct an election in India. We are not discussing any political parties here, campaigning spendings or any opinions. This is purely about the operation cost of running an election itself. Now here's where it gets interesting. Even in recent elections like 2024 Lok Sabha elections and the latest state elections, there isn't a single officially published number that captures the total cost. What we have instead are the partial figures, budget allocations and public reports. Different parts of elections like manpower, security, infrastructure and logistics are funded by different government departments, which means the total cost is not captured in a single place. And that's why even today, despite elections happening at such a massive scale, there is no one defined number that tells you the real cost. So in this video, we'll combine publicly available data, recent reports and reasonable estimates from sources like business standards and other reports to understand the true scale and eventually estimate costs required for elections in India. Now to understand the cost of Lok Sabha elections or any elections conducted in India, first we need to understand the scale associated with it. India is divided into 543 Lok Sabha constituencies, and each of these constituencies there are around 900 million eligible voters. Now to manage all of this, country sets up nearly 10 lakh polling booths spread across cities, villages or even remote locations. Now each of these booths need to be staffed, secured and fully operational. In total, more than 1 crore personnel are involved into conducting these elections, be it government officials, security staff or support staff. Now this is not just a basic event, right? It's one of the largest logistical operation in the world. And once you understand the scale, the actual costs start to make a lot more sense here onwards. And we'll talk about every associated cost one by one. Now, as we discussed, over 1 crore people are involved in conducting a Lok Sabha election. This includes government officials, teachers, administrative staff, and security personnel deployed across the country. Now, here's where it gets important and interesting. A large portion of cost does not explicitly show up under election expenses because many of these individuals are already on a government payroll. However, there are still significant additional costs involved, such as travel, accommodation, food, and daily allowances during election duty. However, conducting elections at this scale still requires substantial additional expenditure in form of deployment allowances, interstate movement of personnel, accommodation, training, food arrangement, and operational coordination across multiple phases of polling. Now, while there is no official published consolidated manpower cost, we can still estimate the scale involved. When over 1 crore personnel are mobilized nationwide, even a moderate operational expense of few thousand rupees per person for travel, deployment, food, training, and election duty logistics can collectively push manpower related expenditure into a range of roughly 5,000 to 10,000 crore. Now again, this is not an official figure, but at a high level estimate to understand the magnitude of resources involved. Now next comes the infrastructure, especially polling booths. For Lok Sabha election, India sets up close to 10 lakh polling stations across the country. Now what's interesting is how of these locations are actually chosen. Polling booths are typically set up in government schools, colleges, panchayat buildings and other public facilities, ensuring that every voter in India has access within reasonable distance. According to guidelines from Election Commission of India, no voter should have to travel more than 2 kilometers to reach polling station in most of the cases. Ensuring that every voter in India has access within reasonable distance. According to guidelines from Election Commission of India, no voter should have to travel more than 2 kilometers to reach polling station in most of the cases. Now, Each of these booths, it's not just a room with a machine, right? Every booth requires basic infrastructure like electricity and furniture, secure placement of voting equipments, communication setup, and most importantly, a proper arrangement of queue management and voter assistance. In addition, there are transportation and logistic efforts involved in moving equipments and personnel across lakhs of such locations. Now, here's the most important part. A large portion of this infrastructure cost is not always recorded as direct election expense because many of these facilities are already owned and maintained by government institutions. So instead of looking at a fixed cost per booth, it's more accurate to understand that the election system heavily relies on existing public infrastructure, which helps reduce direct costs but still involves massive resource utilization. While there is no official published per booth cost available, reasonable estimates for logistics, temporary arrangements, equipment handling, and support services could place the operational expense somewhere around 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees per polling station, applied across nearly 10 lakh polling booths. That could translate to roughly around 5,000 to 10,000 crore. Now, again, this is not an official figure, but a high level estimate to understand the scale involved. Talk about one of the most visible and critical component of any election, the voting machines. In India, elections are conducted through using electronic voting machines called as EVMs along with VVPAT systems, which stand for voter verifiable paper audit trail systems. These machines are not just used on election day, but they go through a complete life cycle before and after voting. According to publicly available data, government approved the procurement of around 16 lakh VVPAT and EVM systems, which costed around more than 3,000 crore, and that's just a purchase cost. Now the real effort begins after the machines are manufactured. First, there is storage and security, where EVMs are kept in highly secure warehouses under often 24/7 surveillance with strict access control and monitoring. Then comes the preparation phase, where machines are checked, configured, and mapped to specific constituencies and polling stations. Now after that, there is a mock testing. Before the actual polling begins, trial runs are conducted in presence of officials to verify that the machines are functioning correctly. Lastly, there comes the transportation. These machines have to be securely transported across the country from warehouses to polling booths, often covering long distances under tight security arrangements. Now, after voting, these machines are again sealed, transported, and stored securely until counting. Even after results are declared, these machines are preserved for a certain period for audit and verification purposes. Next comes the security. Now, part of this is already included in the manpower we discussed earlier. But beyond that, elections require a large scale deployment of central forces and state police across the country. These forces are responsible for securing polling booths, transporting EVMs, and managing sensitive areas. In many cases, personnel are moved across the states, which adds travel, accommodation, and logistic cost. Now, again, this cost is not always shown directly under election expenses because it is handled by multiple government departments. But based on the scale of deployment, a rough estimate could place security related costs between a range of around 1,500 to 2,500 crore. This is not an official figure again, but this helps to understand the security is another major cost layer in conducting elections. Now, finally, there are logistic, communication, and operational costs. So, this includes transportation of personnel and EVM across the country, coordination between departments, training of staff, government voter awareness campaigns, and preparation of electoral rolls. There are also other costs involved in setting up counting centers, handling postal ballots, and managing the overall election process end to end. Now, individually, these may seem like small components, but at a scale, they add up quickly. A rough estimate of these combined costs could be a range between 2,000 to 3,500 crore. Again, these are not official consolidated figures, but they help us understand how multiple smaller layers contribute significantly to the overall cost. Now let's bring everything together. Unlike many large government operations, there isn't any single official number that captures the full cost of conducting elections in India. Now what we have instead is partial figures, budget allocation and credible public reports. A large portion of the actual cost is spread across departments like manpower, security, infrastructure, logistics and equipment. So it doesn't appear as one consolidated number. Now when analysts combine these components using reasonable assumptions, the total cost is often estimated to be in the range of 25,000 to 40,000 crore. To be clear, this is not an official figure again, but a high level estimate based on available data and the scale involved. Now, when you consider over 900 million voters, nearly 10 lakh polling booths, and more than 1 crore of personnel involved, it's clear that conducting elections in India is just not expensive, it's one of the largest or logistical operations in the world. So, to conclude here, elections in India are not just about voting, they are about scale, coordination, and massive resource deployment. And while the exact cost might not be captured in one single number, one thing is very clear: the system that enables this process is incredibly complex. So, the next time you cast your vote, it's worth remembering behind that one decision lies one of the largest democratic operations in the world. I hope you found this video insightful. If you did, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoy data driven content like this, don't forget to like and share this video. See you in the next one.